From this module, you will be able to understand the contemporary leadership issues, describe the different forms of leadership, know the nature of each of the different forms of leadership, analyze the functions of leaders in contemporary world, identify the key features of different leadership styles, and learn the different influence processes employed by contemporary leaders.
After studying this module, you shall be able to understand the contemporary leadership issues, describe the different forms of leadership, know the nature of each of the different forms of leadership, analyze the functions of leaders in contemporary world, identify the key attributes of different leaders' style, learn the different influence processes employed by contemporary leaders. In the contemporary world, organizations are witnessing a plethora of changes. These changes have redefined the entire business world. The organizations today are fast moving and evolving in every possible way. The workers are goal driven and the need to perform is stark. In these changing times, the roles of a leader have massively outgrown. The leaders are now facing the pressure of not only leading and facilitating, but also understanding the growth and development needs of their followers and to model these needs in time with the organizational goals. This module addresses various forms of leadership which have evolved as a response to the contemporary organizational demands. The concept of charismatic leadership has its roots in ancient wisdom. Although the charismatic concept or charisma goes as far back as the ancient Greeks and it finds mention in the Bible, its modern development is often attributed to the work of Max Weber. Charismatic leadership was first discussed by Max Weber more than a century ago. He defined charisma as a certain quality of an individual personality by virtue of which she is set apart from ordinary people and treated as endowed with supernatural, superhuman, or LD specifically exceptional powers or qualities. Further, he defined charismatic authority as resting on devotion to the exceptional sanctity, heroism, and exemplary character of an individual person and of the normative patterns or order revealed or ordained by him. The concept of charisma was applied to the field of organizational behavior as a leadership characteristic. A major shift in leadership research in the mid-1970s led to the development of many charismatic leadership theories. Charisma is a leadership trait that can influence employees to take early and sustained action. It is a form of interpersonal attraction of a leader that inspires support and acceptance from others. Charismatic leadership is therefore a type of influence based on the leader's personal charisma. This work was pioneered by Robert House, who developed the charismatic leadership theory. On the basis of the analysis of political and religious leaders, Weber suggested that charismatic leaders are characterized by self-confidence and confidence in their associates, high expectations for associates, ideological vision, and the use of personal example. Since these qualities are not easily accessible by the common person, followers make attributions of heroic or extraordinary leadership abilities when they observe these behaviors. Traits and personality are related to charisma. Charismatic leaders are likely to be extroverted, self-confident, and achievement-oriented. The primary attribute exhibited by charismatic leaders is that have a vision which is frequently articulated by them. This vision appeals to the belief, needs of the followers, and hence is easily shared among them. The vision is expressed as an idealized goal that proposes a future better than the status quo. A charismatic leader is able to clarify the importance of the vision in terms that are understandable to his or her followers. The vision presented is usually value-centered, realizable, and superior imaginary. Charismatic leaders are apparently willing to take on high personal risk, ready to incur high cost, and engage in self-sacrifice to achieve the vision. This attribute is a major source of devotion offered to them by their followers. The charismatic leader makes self-sacrifices to demonstrate courage and convictions about the vision. Charismatic leaders are able to make a realistic assessment of the environmental constraints and resources needed to bring about change. They exhibit sensitivity towards environment and actively take on themselves. 2. Charismatic leaders are exceptionally perceptive of others' abilities and responsible to their needs and feelings. The leader communicates high performance expectations for his or her followers, simultaneously expressing confidence that followers can attain them. A charismatic leader usually engages in behaviors that are perceived as novel and counter to norms. They exhibit behaviors that are out of the ordinary, unconventional, and awe-inspiring. Charismatic leaders are known to exert immense influence over their followers. These leaders possess exceptional qualities which make them almost godlike for their followers. The charm of charismatic leaders make their followers go behind them without questioning. A strong bond exists between these leaders and their followers. Such magnitude of influence has been tied to the psychological attributes of the leaders which make them successful charismatic leaders. Research shows that charismatic leaders appeal strongly to the values of the followers. It is the psychological bondage between the two which make the charismatic leader succeed. Therefore, it is important to understand the process of influence. Charismatic leader influence followers through 4 processes. Leader articulates an attractive vision which promises of a glorious future. This vision statement is a formal, long-term strategy to attain goals, and it links past, present, and future. Since it is close to people's heart, it commands extraordinary influence over them. Leader communicates high performance expectations from his or her followers while showing sensitivity to their needs. The leader also reiterates his/her confidence in the abilities of the followers. Leader conveys a new set of values which are embraced by the followers. These new values are seen as applying. These new values are seen as appealing by followers because the charismatic leader establishes them by setting a number of personal examples. Charismatic leader often engages in emotion inducing and unconventional behaviors. He/she tries to reach out to the followers through stirring actions and speeches which are emotionally charged and arousing. Charismatic leadership has been seen as a positive force by many, which essentially brings out desirable results. However, there have been multiple instances which highlights the negative aspects of charismatic leadership. It is important to understand both sides of the charismatic leadership. On the positive side, it is observed that charismatic leadership exerts extraordinary influence over the followers, which has been used by the leaders in positive direction. It motivates followers to put in extra efforts than what is expected from them otherwise. Charismatic leaders produce in their followers performance beyond expectations as well as a very strong commitment to the organization. Charismatic leadership also works to heighten the morale of the followers. It shapes the society and the business world the way followers and the leader had dreamt. As a result, it increases the overall performance of the organization. It also infuses a sense of unity and belongingness in the followers towards the organization. On the other hand, charismatic leadership also has severe negative effects. The shared vision and ideas between the leader and the followers create enormous energy in the organization. In many cases, charismatic leaders have employed this energy in destructive ways. There is a high probability that charismatic leaders are tempted to abuse their powers. Many companies have witnessed their charismatic leaders going corrupt without the knowledge of their followers or superiors. A well-documented example is that of Enron, which has been described as an example of corporate cult. As a result of its charismatic leaders who ultimately led to its fall. Transformational leadership, as the name suggests, is all about transformation or leading change. This was first identified by James McGogher Burns in 1978. But major research into this topic was first carried out by Bernard Bass. Burns defined it as transformation leadership is a relationship of mutual stimulation and elevation that converts followers into leaders and many converts leaders into moral agents. Bass explained that transformation leadership occurs when leaders broaden and elevate the interest of their employees, when they generate awareness and acceptance of the purposes and mission of the group, and when they stir their employees to look beyond their own self-interest for the good of the group. Transformation leaderships are more popularly referred to as agents of change who energizes and directs their followers to a new set of behaviors. This form of leadership is characterized by leaders' attention to the concerns and development needs of the individual followers. They are specifically concerned with empowering their followers to take greater risks and venture ahead with innovative ideas. To summarize, leadership roles are redefining themselves in contemporary business world. Charismatic leaders use vision, personal risk, sensitivity to followers' needs, and unconventional behaviors to command exceptional loyalty from their followers. Charismatic leaders infuse immense amount of energy in their followers, which can sometimes be used in the wrong direction. Transformational leaders brings about a change in status quo for the leader. Transformational leaders brings about a change in status quo for the better. They strive to enhance the abilities of their followers as well as overall the organizational by providing strategic directions. They foster creativity and innovative. Transformation, Transaction leaders operate through contingent rewards, management by exception, and laissez-faire. They promote a compliance environment by sticking to set rules and established norms. Leaders have assumed different roles in contemporary world. These includes mentoring, self-leadership, and e-leadership.
Mahatma Gandhi, the father of India, said, "The history of the world is full of men who rose to leadership by sheer force of self-confidence, bravery, and tenacity." We have dealt with many aspects of organization and behavior, and we always come to think what makes a company run. The answer is a leader, if said correctly, a charismatic leader. The charismatic concept or charisma goes as far back as the ancient Greeks, and it finds mention in the Bible. Its modern development is often attributed to the work of Max Weber. Charismatic leadership was first discussed by Max Weber more than a century ago. He defined charisma as a certain quality of an individual personality by virtue of which he or she is set apart from ordinary people and treated as endowed with supernatural, superhuman, or at least specifically exceptional. A major shift in leadership research in the mid 1970s led to the development of many charismatic leadership theories. Hence, it can be said that charisma is a leadership trait that can influence employees to take early and sustained action. It is a form of interpersonal attraction of a leader that inspires support and acceptance from others. Charismatic leadership is therefore a type of influence based on the leader's personal charisma. Charismatic leaders are characterized by self-confidence and confidence in their associates, high expectations for associates, ideological vision, and the use of personal example. Now let's go over some of the attributes of a charismatic leader. The primary attribute exhibited by charismatic leaders is that they have a vision, which is frequently articulated by them. This vision appeals to the beliefs and needs of the followers and hence is easily shared among them. Secondly, they are willing to take on high personal risks, ready to incur high costs, and engage in self-sacrifice to achieve the vision. This attribute is a major source of devotion offered to them by their followers. Another feature of people like Obama, Lincoln, and Lenin is that they are able to make realistic assessments of the environmental constraints and resources needed to bring about change. They exhibit sensitivity towards environment and actively take on themselves. Moreover, they are exceptionally perceptive of others' abilities and responsive to their needs and feelings. The leader communicates high performance expectations for his or her followers, simultaneously expressing confidence that followers can attain them. Lastly, he or she usually engages in behaviors that are perceived as novel and counter to norms. They exhibit behaviors that are out of the ordinary, unconventional, and awe-inspiring. Now I will go over on how charismatic leaders influence their followers. First, they articulate an attractive vision which promises of a glorious future. This vision statement is a formal, long-term strategy to attain goals, and it links past, present, and future. Since it is close to the people's hearts, it commands extraordinary influence over them. Furthermore, a leader communicates high performance expectations from his followers while showing sensitivity to their needs. The leader also reiterates his or her confidence in the abilities of the followers, and leader conveys a new set of values which are embraced by the followers. These new values are seen as appealing by the followers because the charismatic leader establishes them by setting a number of personal examples. Finally, we all know the power of Martin Luther King and Obama's speeches, and hence it can be said that charismatic leader often engages in emotion-inducing and unconventional behaviors. He or she tries to reach out to the followers through stirring actions and speeches which are emotionally charged and arousing. On this slide, the table shows the interpretation of charismatic leaders and the followers. There are many positives of being a charismatic leader, such as it is observed that charismatic leadership exerts extraordinary influence over the followers, which has been used by the leaders in positive directions. It motivates followers to put in extra efforts than what is expected from them otherwise. Charismatic leaders produce in their followers performance beyond expectations, as well as a very strong commitment to the organization. Charismatic leaders also works to heighten the morale of the followers. It shapes the society and the business world the way the followers and the leader had dreamt. As a result, it increases the overall performance of the organization. It also infuses a sense of unity and belongingness in the followers towards the organization. Charismatic leadership has negative influence as well, like the shared vision and ideas between the leader and the followers create enormous energy in the organization, which, in many cases in the past, the leaders have employed this energy in destructive ways. There is a high probability that charismatic leaders are tempted to abuse their powers. A well-documented example is that of Enron, which has been described as an example of corporate cult as a result of its charismatic leaders who ultimately led to its fall. After the Lipton White experiment on leadership style, most people for a long time believed that there are only three forms of leadership, namely authoritarian, democratic, and delegative. However, James McGregor in 1978 identified another form of leadership style which is called as the transformational leadership. Transformational leadership, as the name suggests, is all about transformation or leading change. Soon major research into this topic was first carried out by Bernard Bass. Burns defined it as transformational leadership is a relationship of mutual stimulation and elevation that converts followers into leaders and may convert leaders into moral agents. Transformational leaders are more popularly referred to as agents of change who energize and direct their followers to a new set of behavior. This form of leadership is characterized by leaders' attention to the concerns and developmental needs of individual followers. Now let's take a look at the aims of a transformational leader. First, he or she would want to change situations for the better, which means that transformational leaders are the agents of change. They transform their followers as well as the organization. They do so by instilling confidence in their followers and helping them move towards growth and achievement. Then they develop their followers to the point where followers are able to take on leadership roles and perform beyond established standards or goals. Furthermore, they help in overhauling organizations, which means they provide the organizations with strategic directions which ultimately renovate the entire organizational structure. In addition to the above mentioned aims, transformational leaders provide an inspiring vision to their followers. This energizes and arouses the followers for higher achievements and better performances. Moreover, all transformational leaders set high standards for moral and ethical conduct among the followers. Transformational leadership exhibits following distinct factors. The first one being an idealized influence. This deals with the image and influence of the leader. Transformational leaders have an idealized image in the eyes of the followers, which closely matches the followers' perception of what a leader should be. They exert their influence through charisma. Another important component of transformational leadership is the process of inspiring and empowering of followers to enthusiastically accept and pursue challenging goals and mission. Furthermore, transformational leaders consider old problems in new ways, articulate these new ideas, and encourage followers to rethink their conventional practices and ideas. Lastly, transformational leaders show high levels of individualized consideration, which consists of behaviors such as communicating personal respect to followers by giving them specialized attention, by treating each one individually, and by recognizing each one's unique needs. Individualized consideration is what allows the transformational leaders to be personally involved in the lives of their followers. The points explained and covered in the previous slides on transformational leadership have been well summarized in this slide. As you can observe, it's portraying the effect of characteristics of transformational leader on the tasks performed by them and the final outcomes of transformational leadership. As you may have noticed, there exist certain differences between transformational leaders and charismatic leaders. Some of the differences are listed below. In transformational leadership, charisma of the leader is just one attribute. However, in charismatic leadership, charisma of the leader is the central attribute. Transformational leaders seek to empower and elevate followers, whereas charismatic leaders may try to keep followers weak and dependent on them. Furthermore, by now you may know that transformational leaders develop followers into leaders, whereas charismatic leaders instill personal loyalty to themselves rather than developing their followers. Besides transformational leadership, there is a new form of leadership which is known as transactional leadership. This is simply described as a form of leadership which is based on the transactions between leaders and subordinates. Bass in 1985 described it as a transactional or cost-benefit exchange process. Transactional leadership is also known as managerial leadership. It focuses on improving performance of the followers within the same organizational context and does not strive to bring about any transformation. Based on satisfaction of needs, the transactional leaders use rewards and punishments to exert their influence. Good work by the followers is rewarded, while any deviation from the established task requirements is punished. There are certain assumptions of transactional leadership, such as they assume that workers require a definite and reliable chain of command to perform well. They perform their best when the chain of command is definite and clear. They also believe that workers can be motivated to perform better through the use of rewards and punishments. Moreover, they consider that the primary goal of the followers is to work according to the demands of the leader. They should obey the instructions and commands of the leader under all circumstances. Another important assumption is that the leaders need to carefully monitor their subordinates in order to ensure that expectations are met. Before going any further, we need to view the four characteristics of transactional leaders. Firstly, the concept of contingent reward, which provides rewards for effort and recognizes good performance. Transactional leaders transact with followers by rewarding efforts, telling them what to do to gain rewards, punishing undesired action, and giving extra feedback and promotions for good work. Moreover, they are characterized by management by exception, which is an active feature which maintains the status quo, intervenes when subordinates do not meet acceptable performance levels, and initiates corrective action to improve performance. In the active form of management by exception, leaders try to anticipate mistakes or problems. Furthermore, management by exception passive is when the leader intervenes only if standards are not met. And finally, the concept of laissez-faire, this characteristic states that the leader abdicates responsibilities and avoids making decisions. This slide depicts the difference between transformational leadership and transactional leadership. From the above, we can say that besides charismatic leadership, leadership is of two types, transformational and transactional leadership. Till now, we have discussed some of the classical examples of leadership styles and its functioning. However, in this modern world, contemporary organizational environment calls for not only traditional leadership roles, but also those which are suitable to the present. Three of such roles are discussed below. First is mentoring. A mentor is a senior employee who sponsors and supports a less experienced employee. The employee on the receiving end of this relationship is called a protege. It is a widespread form of intergenerational knowledge sharing in which the mentor guides and nurtures the mentee. Second is self-leadership. It is the phenomenon through which people guide their own behavior. This ability is gradually developed in an individual under constant support and guidance from the leaders. The leaders who strive to develop their followers into leaders are often referred to as the super leaders. These super leaders are effective leaders who advocate employees managing themselves. And lastly, e-leadership, as in today's world, the traditional 9-to-5 job scenario has undergone a major change. The leaders now have to provide guidance and motivation to people working across the globe or to those whom they have never met. The practice of leading the workers in virtual space is called e-leadership. Let us now summarize the whole chapter in brief. Firstly, leadership roles are redefining themselves in contemporary business world. Secondly, charismatic leaders use vision, personal risk, sensitivity to followers' needs, and unconventional behaviors to command exceptional loyalty from their followers. Thirdly, charismatic leaders infuse immense amount of energy in their followers, which can sometimes be used in wrong direction. Fourthly, transformational leaders bring about a change in status quo for the better. They strive to enhance the abilities of their followers as well as overhaul the organizations by providing strategic directions. They foster creativity and innovation. Fifthly, the transactional leaders operate through contingent rewards, management by exception, and laissez-faire. They promote a compliance environment by sticking to set rules and established norms. And lastly, leaders have assumed different roles in contemporary world. These include mentoring, self-leadership, and e-leadership.